Good morning. Today is Tuesday. It is the 16th day of Elul. And today we complete the chapter 14, letter 14 in Igeret Hakodesh. The letter, as we said yesterday, Alter Rebbe is talking about the special thing of giving tzedakah to the Holy Land of Israel. And he explains what is special about the land of Israel, that it says, Tamid einei Hashem Elokecha ba, that the eyes of God is constantly there, Mereshit Hashana v'ad Achrit Shana, from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. And he asked, what does it mean? Why does it say if it's constant, if the eyes of God is constantly in the land of Israel? So why does it say from the beginning to the end? Obviously, it's from the beginning to the end. It should say constant, and that's it. And he explains that the energy that comes down from Hashem is every year, God brings it down for 1 year. And when it comes the day before Rosh Hashana, that energy is withdrawn. At the eve of Rosh Hashana, the energy that God gives, it's like the world is in a state of sleep. Just like when you sleep, the life, the energy is withdrawn in a way. And when you wake up, you become reinvigorated and you get new energy. In a similar way, the energy that Hashem gives to the year, to the world, every year on Rosh Hashana, in the eve, it becomes withdrawn, and through Hashem then gives us again the life, and that is because of the desire that we invoke in God through the prayers and through the sounding of the shofar. And this is in general, it's in Rosh Hashana. In a sense, it also happens every day in more detail. And every morning also, when during the prayer, the morning prayer, we get reinvigorated, a new life, a new light. Every morning is a new day. So those are things that are happening in the world at large. But Alter Rebbe explained that especially this takes place, the energy that Hashem brings down to this world, it takes place especially in the land of Israel, because this is the corresponding place of the godly land. And therefore, from there, it spreads to the whole world. The life spreads from the land of Israel to the rest of the world. And this is what the Rebbe said, that is giving the tzedakah to the land, especially for this cause, it should be in a similar way that the way Hashem does. What does that mean? He says the energy that God gives every year is not the same as the year before. It is a much greater energy. It is something that the world never had before. And that is why also when it comes to, in order to invoke in this type of energy that Hashem gives us, we need to act accordingly, that when we give the tzedakah, it should be in an increased manner. I remember the Rebbe in 770, they would sell every year the mitzvahs for the year. It would be in Shabbos Bereshis, the first Shabbos of the year after the holidays. And there were certain people that would buy every year the same mitzvah again and again and again. So they were announcing that in this mitzvah, let's say the opening of the ark or whatever, lifting the Torah and so on, this mitzvah goes to this and this person, behoy safa, with an increase. In other words, when you give, you always have to constantly increase, even if it's a smaller increase, but it has to be with an increase constantly. And that in turn brings the increase that Hashem gives us, that the increase that God gives us should be in a revealed way, because it does come. On Rosh Hashana in the morning, through our prayers, through our blowing of the shofar, it does come. But it comes and then it's concealed, and we need to reveal it. We need to draw it down in a revealed manner. Let's see inside what the Alter Rebbe says in today's Tanya. Says the Alter Rebbe, "V'zeu shekasuv," and this is the meaning of the phrase, what we just mentioned. Tamid einei Hashem eleikecha bo, that forever the eyes of Hashem, your God, is upon it. Upon it, it means upon the land of Israel. Now we're saying that eyes of Hashem is upon it. What does it mean, the eyes of God? Literally, the way we understand it is that Hashem watches us, watches the land of Israel, watches the people. But here the Alter Rebbe comes and gives a deeper explanation that eyes represent chachma, wisdom. As we explained in the previously in the Tanya, the difference between chachma and bina, wisdom and understanding. Wisdom is something that you see the truth, you see something. Understanding is more of listening, hearing, and comprehending. So the chachma, wisdom, is when you see something clear. That's why it says, Ein eid nasa dayan. A witness can never become a judge. Because if you witness something, you become subjective. It can no longer be objective. If you saw it, then you saw it. That's why you cannot be a judge. You need to be somebody objective to be a judge. So the chachma represents, the eyes represents the chachma, the seeing. Is seeing, the wisdom is something which is really very, very clear. It says the eyes of Hashem is in Eretz Yisrael, meaning the chachma, the wisdom of Hashem, is in the Holy Land. Shelachein nikru chachamim einei ha'eda. Again, sha'inayim em kinuyim lamshochas va'oras eira chachma. But the eyes is an epithet for the flux and the radiance of the light of chachma. Shelachein nikru chachamim einei ha'eda. And this is why the chachamim, sages, they're referred to as the eyes of the congregation. Because they are illuminated by the light of chachma, which is known by the epithet of eyes. Another thing it says also, we say, Va'avira the Eretz Yisrael machkim. And this too is the meaning of the teaching that the atmosphere of the land of Israel makes one wise. You come to Eretz Yisrael, you come to the holy land, you get more wisdom. Interesting. Talmud even says about one of the sages, Rabbi Zera, that he was in Babylon and he made a ruling about a certain situation, a certain case. It came to him and he made a certain ruling. Then he moved to the land of Israel. When he moved to Israel, he then later on changed his ruling. And they asked him, why did you change? What happened? He says, the Eretz Israel, he moved to the land of Israel. The land of Israel makes you wiser. So because in the land of Israel, there is the eyes of Hashem, meaning the wisdom of Hashem shines there in the land of Israel. Now, he says, this radiance and this flux from this light, although it is continuous, nevertheless, it is not on one and the same plane and level since the beginning of the world. It's not the same thing. Yes, it is continuous. Every year, again and again it comes, but it's not the same light. Rather, every year there is a new and superior light. Umistalek be'erev Rosh Hashana l'shorshei. Abba l'shorshei. He says, because the light which was generated and which shone on this Rosh Hashanah withdraws to its source on the eve of the next Rosh Hashanah. It's withdrawn. The light that is given is withdrawn. V'zeu shekasuv mereishis hashana v'adach shone levada. That the Alter Rebbe says that we can see it also in the verse itself. That fact that the light is withdrawn, we can see it within the verse itself. The verse says, "Mereishis hashana v'adach shone," that the eyes of God is from the beginning of the year till the end of the year. Only, what does it mean? So it says, the Alter Rebbe, look in the verse, in the word Mereshit. Mereshit seems like it's misspelled. Reshit is Reish Aleph Shin Yud Tov. Here it's missing an Aleph. There is Reish Shin Yud Tov Reshit. Says the Alter Rebbe, L'chein ksiv Mereshit Chaser Aleph, and that is why Mereshit from the beginning is written without an Aleph. This alludes to the withdrawal of the light. Withdrawal of the light. When it's without an Aleph, it can read Rashit. Rashit means pour. So you can see that the Rashit in the verse itself, you see that there's something missing. Mereshit Hashana. That in the beginning of the year, there's something missing. Why? Because there is a light that is withdrawn on the eve of Rosh Hashana. So this alludes to the withdrawal of the light. This is signified by the Aleph, but also the fact that it seems like that Reshit sounds like poor. There's a poverty there, something missing. And this is withdrawn on the night of Rosh Hashana. Until when? Ad acharat kiyos, until after the sounding of the shofar. What happens then? Sheyered oyer chodesh elyon yoser. Then there descends a new and more sublime light. Sheloi haya meir adayin mimei oilam oyer elyon kazeh. That has never yet shone since the beginning of the world. Think about it. All of these years, from even the time of the Beis HaMikdash, the time of Avraham, of Moshe Rabbeinu, never, ever, ever has been a light, such a powerful light, that comes this coming Rosh Hashana. And that was before last year, Rosh Hashana. And again, every year is more than the previous year. This is something that really gives us a lot of hope. When you say that every year we say, which we made this resolution, last year we're going to be better. Who says we're trying, and it didn't work? Who says this year is going to be better? I think there's a saying from Reb Nachman of Breslov. It says that the Welt wird besser und besser. The world becomes better and better. What does that mean? You should look around you and see the opposite. The world becomes worse. But the truth is, because the world becomes darker, and therefore we have the greater abilities to combat this darkness, to bring light into such darkness. We need a stronger light. In fact, I remember as a child, when you didn't see many people who were Baalei Teshuvah, people who came back to Judaism. It was very few people that you saw, people that came back to Judaism, started observing Torah, mitzvahs. You only saw the other way. People left. Today you have so many thousands and thousands of people all over. The world is becoming better and better. Says the Alter Rebbe, this is something that happens every year, Rosh Hashana. And Rosh Hashana, the light and the energy of this world is withdrawn, and there is a new light that comes down. And the light was is such a great light that was never ever existed before. However, says the Alter Rebbe, but this light that comes down is concealed. It is not in a revealed way. What do you do to reveal it? Continues the Alter Rebbe and says, והוא מסלבש ומסתתר בארץ החיים שלמעלה ושלמטה. Says it vests itself and conceals itself in the Eretz HaChaim, which is above, meaning the Malchus of Atzilus, the source of all worlds and created beings, and in Eretz HaChaim, which is below, in the land of Israel. So this light is concealed. And that light is coming down to do what? In order to animate all the worlds for the duration of the year. But it's in a concealed way. Now you need to reveal this light. Says the Alter Rebbe. And its manifestation, however, the revelation to bring out this light from concealment, it depends on three things. Number one, the actions of those below. And two is uschusam, and their merits, whatever merits they have of previous deeds, merits of their parents or the grandparents and so on. Number three is the tshuva, the penitence that they do in the 10 days of Teshuvah. And this will suffice for the initiated. People understand. They will understand this concept. So these three things, some say that this is all of them connected also with the 10 days of Teshuvah. That within the 10 days of Teshuvah, it says one should not only do Teshuvah, but also the mitzvahs that we do between Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. The 10 days of Teshuvah we should be more careful. For example, it says in the Shulchan Aruch that when talking about bread, eating kosher bread, obviously kosher is kosher. However, there is what's called Pat Israel. Pat Israel means bread that the oven was lit by a Jew. So it could be kosher bread that you buy in the supermarket, but that's not Pat Israel. Says in Shulchan Aruch says that even those who are not careful throughout the year to eat Pat Israel, they eat Pat Palter, what's called. But on Seres Yemei Tshuva, these 10 days, we should be also all careful to eat only Pat Israel. This is just an example. Not what the Alter Rebbe said, but the Shulchan Aruch says we should be more careful, and this relates to what he says here, that during the 10 days of Teshuvah, we're more careful with our actions, we're more careful with our deeds, and we do Teshuvah. This allows and this brings down the revelation of this new light that we just got. And that got on Rosh Hashana. This is also why on Rosh Hashana itself, we need to be so careful with treasuring every moment of Rosh Hashana, because we accomplish this light. We bring down through our desire, through our will and accepting God as King, which is saying the Tehillim, doing all good things on Rosh Hashana, we bring down this light, and later on the Seres Yemei Tshuva will bring the revelation of this light. So this is the end of today's shir. It's all interesting how, as we get closer to Rosh Hashana, the Tanya that we learn is also connected with Rosh Hashana, that will help us to prepare for a good year. We should all have a ksiva, v'chasim ateva, good kiben shtiyah. Thank you so much for joining. And don't forget to share this and subscribe, do everything. Invite more people, friends. And Mitzvah Shem, tonight, we're going to have something, a related shir, a class that is related to what we just spoke today. Very interesting class, the Torah studies at 8 p.m. Any questions?